You know, I've been thinking about something lately. Something that's been sitting heavy on my chest for days now. It's about how complicated it's become to find love in 2025, to date someone, to build something real with another human being. And I don't mean the usual complications, the ones that have always existed. I mean something different, something specific to this moment we're living in. We exist in a world dominated by screens, by 15-second videos that hold more power than our own beliefs, more influence than the truths we've spent years building inside ourselves. And maybe you already know what I'm talking about. Maybe you've felt it too. This strange invasion of voices telling you how to be masculine, how to be feminine, how to flirt, how to attract, how to keep, how to leave. An avalanche of information that drowns out your own instincts. The 50-50 rule, divine feminine energy, what men really want, what women can't stand, alpha male tactics, high-value woman strategies. It's become a circus, hasn't it? A chaotic marketplace where everyone's selling a different map to the same destination and nobody seems to arrive anywhere at all. Trying to form a genuine connection with someone now feels like walking through a minefield of other people's opinions. And the tragedy is that most of these opinions come from people who profit from your confusion, from your loneliness, from your fear of being alone. But let me be clear about something before we go further. I'm not here to tell you I have all the answers. I'm not some guru who's figured it all out. I'm just someone who's been paying attention. Someone who's been in relationships that worked and relationships that fell apart. Someone who's made mistakes and learned from them slowly, painfully, like we all do. What I want to talk about tonight is real. It might make some people uncomfortable. It might challenge beliefs you've held for years, and that's okay. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to accept everything I say as gospel truth. Just listen. Think about it. Filter it through your own experience, keep what resonates, leave the rest behind. Recently, I came across a term that's been spreading like wildfire across social media. Maybe you've heard it. Maybe you've even used it. The word that translates roughly to prince in the masculine form, used mockingly. A label thrown at men who refuse to fulfill traditional gender roles. Men who won't pay for everything. Men who suggest splitting expenses. Men who believe in partnership rather than patronage. And what strikes me most about this word is its origin, right? It comes from princess. And historically, calling someone princess meant calling them weak, fragile, delicate, unable to handle the real world. It's rooted in the same sexist thinking that has hurt women for generations, and now, somehow, it's being weaponized in the opposite direction. The irony is stunning. Women fighting for equality while simultaneously demanding that men fulfill archaic provider roles. Men claiming they want independent partners while expecting those partners to perform like characters from dating strategy videos. Everyone's contradicting themselves. Everyone's lost in the noise. I saw a video recently, a young financial influencer explaining how he and his partner split household expenses. Two young adults, probably mid-20s, no children, living together, building a life. And the approach was simple, logical, fair. Instead of splitting everything 50-50, they each contributed based on their income. If one person earned more, they paid more. If one person earned less, they paid less. But proportionally, they both contributed the same percentage of their earnings. Makes sense, right? It's practical. It's equitable. It acknowledges that fairness isn't always about equal amounts, but equal effort, equal sacrifice. The comments section was a war zone. Hundreds, maybe thousands of people, mostly women, attacking this man, saying things like, if you need a man who splits bills like that, you're better off alone. Or a real man takes care of everything financially. Or why even be in a relationship if you're going to act like roommates? And I sat there staring at my screen, genuinely stunned. Not because I couldn't understand where they were coming from, but because the fundamental misunderstanding was so profound, so disconnected from what relationships actually are. A relationship is not a sponsorship deal. It's not a transaction where one person provides money and the other provides what? Company? Affection? Their body? That's not love. That's something else entirely, something transactional, something hollow. And look, if you're in a position where you can financially support your partner completely and you want to do that and it brings you joy, that's beautiful, truly. There's nothing wrong with generosity. There's nothing wrong with wanting to take care of someone you love. But it should come from desire, not obligation, from abundance, not expectation, from love, not duty. The problem is young people, teenagers and early 20-somethings, adopting these mindsets before they can even support themselves, before they understand what it takes to survive independently in this economy. They're 17, 18, 20 years old, still figuring out how to pay their own rent, and they're already demanding that potential partners finance their entire existence. They've forgotten what partnership means. They've confused romance with rescue, love with luxury, connection with compensation. And it goes both ways. It absolutely goes both ways. Let's not pretend this is just one gender's failing. There are men out there, plenty of them, who think a relationship is primarily about physical access, who believe that buying dinner entitles them to intimacy, who get genuinely angry, childishly indignant when a date doesn't end the way they imagined it would, when they don't receive what they believe they've purchased with their time and money, as if another human being is a vending machine. Insert compliments, insert meals, insert attention, receive physical affection. That's not how any of this works. That's not how any of this has ever worked. So you have women who believe men only want one thing, that every act of generosity is manipulation toward physical intimacy. And you have men who believe women are only interested in financial security, that every expression of interest is calculated to extract resources. Both sides are wrong. Both sides are trapped in these bitter, defensive narratives that make genuine connection nearly impossible. And where do these narratives come from? Where do these toxic beliefs breed and multiply? Social media. Specifically platforms designed for quick consumption. 15-second videos, 30-second clips, bite-sized pieces of terrible advice dressed up as ancient wisdom or psychological breakthroughs. Videos that tell men to ignore the women they're interested in, to use dark psychology tactics, to manipulate, to dominate, to control the conversation, to never show vulnerability, to always appear strong, detached, mysterious, as if dating is a chess game where the winner is whoever cares less. Videos that tell women to test their partners constantly, to make them prove their worth over and over, to never settle, to demand specific treatments and specific gestures and specific financial contributions, to view themselves as prizes to be won rather than humans seeking companionship. Everyone's so focused on winning that nobody's actually trying to connect. Nobody's actually present in the moment. Everyone's performing roles they learned from strangers on the internet, following scripts written by people who are profiting from their loneliness. It's exhausting. It's dehumanizing. It's the opposite of what love is supposed to be. Love, real love, the kind worth having, isn't a performance. It's not a strategy. It's not a series of calculated moves designed to secure the best possible outcome. It's messy. It's vulnerable. It's showing up as yourself, imperfect and uncertain, and hoping the other person does the same. It's laughing together, having real conversations, sharing fears and dreams and stupid jokes that only make sense to the two of you. It's feeling safe enough to be boring, comfortable enough to be quiet, secure enough to be honest. But we've lost sight of that. We've been taught to focus on everything except the actual connection. Women are told to focus on what he provides. Men are told to focus on what she looks like. Everyone's told to keep score, to maintain leverage, to never give too much, to always hold something back. And then we wonder why we're lonely, why relationships feel hollow, why nobody seems to understand us. There's something I need to say clearly, even though it might upset some people. Attraction requires two components, not one, two. You need to be attracted to someone physically, And you need to be attracted to who they are as a person. Their mind, their values, their sense of humor, the way they see the world. If either component is missing, it won't work. It doesn't matter how physically attractive someone is if you can't stand talking to them. And it doesn't matter how amazing someone's personality is if you feel zero physical chemistry. You need both. That's not shallow. That's not cruel. That's just honest. And honesty is what we're missing most right now. Honest communication. The willingness to say what you actually want instead of playing games. Instead of expecting your partner to read your mind. Instead of getting angry when they fail to guess what you're feeling. This whole "if they really loved me, they just know" mentality is childish. It's a setup for failure. It guarantees resentment and misunderstanding because nobody can read minds. Nobody. If something bothers you, say it. If you need something, ask for it. If you're unhappy, explain why. Don't punish your partner for failing to solve puzzles you never gave them the pieces to. Don't test them constantly to see if they're paying attention. Don't make them prove their love through elaborate guessing games. Real maturity in relationships means accepting that your partner is human, flawed, forgetful sometimes, distracted sometimes, imperfect just like you. And instead of punishing them for their imperfections, you work together. You communicate. You make adjustments. You grow. That's what teamwork means. And relationships, good relationships, are teamwork. Constant, ongoing, imperfect teamwork. Figuring out how to merge two separate lives into something that works for both people. Compromising, adjusting, supporting each other through the hard parts. I think about the economy we're living in, how expensive everything has become, how difficult it is for young people to survive on a single income, let alone thrive. And yet there's this cultural pressure, especially on men, to provide everything financially, to carry the entire economic burden of two people's existence. In some countries, in some economic situations, that's simply not realistic. Two incomes aren't a luxury anymore. They're a necessity. And there's no shame in that. There's no weakness in needing your partner's financial contribution. There's no failure in building a life together where both people work, both people contribute, both people make sacrifices. That's partnership. That's real partnership. Not one person carrying everything while the other relaxes. Not one person sacrificing their dreams while the other pursues theirs. But both people showing up. Both people contributing what they can. Both people making the relationship and the life you're building together a priority. And yes, sometimes one person contributes more financially. Sometimes one person contributes more domestically. Sometimes the balance shifts based on circumstances, on whose career is demanding more, on who's going through a difficult time, on whose turn it is to lean on the other. That's normal. That's healthy. That's how partnerships work. But this idea that one gender should always be responsible for finances while the other is responsible for domestic duties in 2025 feels antiquated. It feels limiting. It ignores the reality of modern economics and modern relationships. It forces people into boxes that might not fit them, roles they might not want to play. Some men love cooking and caring for a home. Some women love providing and building careers. Some couples split everything evenly. Some couples do things completely differently based on their unique circumstances and preferences. And all of that is valid. All of that is okay. What's not okay is demanding that your partner fulfill specific roles based solely on gender, based on outdated expectations, based on what some stranger on the internet said is the natural order of things. Your partner is not your parent. They're not there to take care of you while you contribute nothing. They're not responsible for your happiness, your fulfillment, your sense of purpose. They can enhance those things, they can support you, but they can't create them for you. And equally important, your partner doesn't owe you access to their body. Not because you paid for dinner, not because you bought them gifts, not because you've been dating for a certain amount of time. Consent isn't something you earn or purchase. It's something freely given in each moment, or it means nothing at all. I know I keep circling back to this idea of social media's influence, but I can't stress it enough. These platforms are warping our understanding of human connection. They're reducing complex, nuanced relationship dynamics to simple formulas and catchy slogans. They're making people believe that love can be hacked, optimized, strategized. There's a trend I've seen recently. Couples asking each other, how many likes until you buy me this thing? Started innocently enough. Cute videos where someone asks their partner how many likes it would take for them to buy a stuffed animal or a new book or something small and sweet. The partner names a number, the video goes viral, they hit the target, and there's a happy ending. But then it escalated. People started asking for cars, for expensive vacations, for things that cost more than most people make in a year. Asking their 20-year-old partners who are struggling to pay their own bills, who don't own cars themselves yet. And when the partner reasonably says no, can't do that, strangers in the comments attack them, tell them they're inadequate, tell the person to leave them, offer to buy it themselves if they break up. It's insane. It's genuinely deranged behavior, and it reveals something dark about how we're starting to view relationships as competitions, as displays of worth measured in dollars, as performances for an audience that actually doesn't care about either person's well-being. This constant performing, this constant testing, this constant comparison to other people's relationships on social media, it's poison. It makes people dissatisfied with perfectly good partners because they don't match some fantasy curated for likes and views. You see a video of someone getting surprised with a trip to Paris, and suddenly your partner taking you to your favorite restaurant doesn't feel like enough. You see someone showing off expensive gifts, and suddenly the thoughtful handmade present you received feels cheap. You see someone's highlight reel and you forget that you're comparing it to your everyday reality. Everyone's life is mostly ordinary, mostly small moments, mostly quiet evenings and inside jokes and comfortable silences. The grand gestures are rare. The viral moments are exceptions. And if you're constantly measuring your relationship against other people's carefully curated performances, you're going to feel disappointed. You're going to feel like you're missing something. But you're not. You're just comparing your behind the scenes to everyone else's show reel. You're forgetting that real intimacy, real connection, isn't particularly photogenic. It doesn't make for good content. It's private. It's small. It's showing up for each other when nobody's watching. I think what we need desperately is to step back from the noise, to turn down the volume on all these external voices telling us how to love, how to be, how to perform our relationships. To get quiet enough to hear what we actually want, what actually matters to us. Not what should matter according to some influencer, not what our friends think, not what gets the most engagement online, but what genuinely makes us happy, what genuinely makes us feel connected and safe and understood. And that's going to look different for everyone. Some people want traditional dynamics. Some people want something completely different. Some people want to get married and have children. Some people want to build different kinds of families. Some people want companionship without cohabitation. Some people want intense passion. Some people want calm stability. None of these desires are wrong. None of them are better than the others. They're just different. And the key is finding someone whose desires align with yours. Someone who wants to build the same kind of life you want to build. But you can't find that person if you're too busy performing, if you're following a script written by someone else, if you're testing and manipulating and strategizing instead of being honest about who you are and what you're looking for. Vulnerability is terrifying, I know. Being honest about what you want means risking rejection, means accepting that not everyone will want the same things, means potentially being alone for longer while you wait to find someone compatible. But isn't it better to be single and hopeful than partnered and miserable? Isn't it better to wait for something real than to settle for something performative? I worry about young people growing up in this environment. Teenagers forming their first ideas about love based on dating advice from strangers who are trying to sell them courses and ebooks and coaching sessions. Kids who will never know what it's like to develop feelings naturally without consulting an algorithm about whether this person meets certain criteria. We're training an entire generation to approach love like a business transaction, to view potential partners as investments to be analyzed rather than humans to be known, to protect themselves so thoroughly from potential hurt that they never open up enough to experience real connection. And I understand the impulse to protect yourself. I do. Getting hurt is awful. Heartbreak is genuinely painful. Betrayal and disappointment and rejection, they all leave marks. They all make you want to build walls, develop defenses, approach future relationships with more caution. But if those walls become too high, too thick, too impenetrable, you don't just keep out the bad, you keep out everything. You keep out the possibility of being surprised by someone, of being delighted by them, of discovering that they are even better than you imagined, of falling in love not despite their flaws, but including them. Real love, I think, is seeing someone clearly, not through rose-colored glasses, not through illusions or fantasies or wishful thinking, but actually seeing them, their strengths and weaknesses, their good days and bad days, their beauty and their mess, and choosing them anyway, choosing to build something together, choosing to be team members rather than opponents. It's accepting that they'll disappoint you sometimes, that they'll be tired and grumpy, that they'll forget things, that they'll make mistakes, and knowing that you'll do all those things too, and committing to forgiveness, to patience, to giving each other the grace to be imperfect humans, trying your best. That's so much harder than following a formula, so much more complex than applying tactics, so much messier than executing a strategy. But it's real, it's sustainable. It's the difference between performing a role and actually living your life with someone. I think about older couples I've known, people who've been together 30, 40, 50 years, and when you ask them the secret, they never talk about tactics. They never mention strategies or maintaining mystery or keeping score. They talk about friendship, about laughing together, about supporting each other through hard times, about making decisions together, about forgiving each other over and over again. They talk about choosing each other repeatedly, even when it would have been easier to leave. They talk about growing together instead of growing apart, about maintaining curiosity about each other, even after decades, about still finding new things to learn about a person they thought they knew completely. That's what we should aspire to. Not perfect chemistry from day one, not effortless compatibility, not a relationship that requires no work, but a partnership that feels worth the work, where the difficulties are outweighed by the joys, where the challenges bring you closer rather than driving you apart. And you can't build that if you're constantly consulting external sources about whether you're doing it right, if you're comparing your private reality to other people's public performances, if you're more concerned with how your relationship looks than how it feels. The question shouldn't be, would other people approve of this relationship? It should be, does this relationship make me happy? Do I feel respected? Do I feel safe? Do I feel like I'm growing? Do I feel like my partner is genuinely trying? Do I want to keep trying too? Those are the questions that matter. Not whether your partner fits some arbitrary list of criteria, not whether they fulfill traditional roles, not whether they're impressive to your friends or your family or strangers online, but whether they're good to you, whether you're good to them, whether you're building something together that feels meaningful and sustainable. I'm not saying ignore red flags. I'm not saying stay in relationships that hurt you or diminish you or make you feel small. I'm saying be discerning about whose opinions matter. Be careful about letting the internet convince you that good enough isn't good enough. Be skeptical of advice that tries to reduce human connection to a series of rules and requirements. Relationships are messy. They're complicated. They require constant communication and adjustment and compromise. They're not something you can master by watching videos or reading articles. They're something you learn by doing, by failing, by trying again, by paying attention to what works and what doesn't in your specific situation with your specific partner. What works for someone else might not work for you. What destroyed one relationship might be irrelevant in another. Context matters. Individual personalities matter. Timing matters. Circumstances matter. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to love. And maybe that's scary. Maybe it would be easier if there were clear rules, if we could just follow instructions and everything would work out. But that's not how humans work. We're too complex, too variable, too influenced by our histories and our contexts and our constantly evolving selves. The best we can do is show up honestly, Communicate clearly. Treat each other with respect and kindness. Work as a team. Forgive mistakes. Celebrate victories. Weather storms together. And keep choosing each other day after day, even when it's hard. That's not sexy. It's not going to go viral. It doesn't make for dramatic content. But it's real. It's how lasting relationships are actually built. Through small, consistent choices. Through daily acts of care and consideration. Through maintaining interest and effort even when the initial excitement fades. Because excitement fades. It always does. That's not a failure. That's not a sign you're with the wrong person. That's just biology. The chemical rush of new love doesn't last forever, but it can transform into something deeper, something calmer, something more stable and sustainable if you let it. If you don't panic when the butterflies settle, if you don't interpret the shift from passionate intensity to comfortable intimacy as a loss rather than an evolution, if you understand that long-term love looks different from early-stage infatuation and that different doesn't mean worse, I think that's another thing social media doesn't prepare us for. The normalization of long-term partnership. The acceptance that relationships change over time. The understanding that you'll go through phases where you feel incredibly connected and phases where you feel distant, and both are normal. Both are part of the process. You're not going to feel madly in love every single day. Some days your partner will annoy you. Some days you'll annoy them. Some days you'll feel like roommates more than lovers. Some days you'll question everything. That's normal. That's not a crisis. That's just long-term partnership. The question isn't whether you feel perfect all the time. It's whether you still want to be there when you don't. Whether you're still willing to work on things when they're hard. Whether you still see a future together even when the present is challenging. And if the answer is no, that's okay too. Not every relationship is meant to last forever. Sometimes people grow apart. Sometimes circumstances change. Sometimes you realize you want fundamentally different things. Sometimes there's nothing wrong with either person, you're just not right for each other. Ending a relationship that isn't working isn't failure, it's honesty. It's respecting yourself and the other person enough to admit that this isn't sustainable, that you're not making each other happy anymore, that continuing would hurt more than ending it. But here's the thing. You can't make that determination if you're constantly being influenced by external voices. If every time you have a disagreement, you're checking online to see if this is a red flag. If every time your partner disappoints you, you're reading articles about whether you should leave. If you're outsourcing your emotional intelligence to strangers who don't know you, don't know your partner, don't know your situation. Trust yourself. Trust your instincts. Trust your own capacity to evaluate your own life. Yes, seek advice when you need it. Talk to trusted friends. Consider therapy if things are really struggling. But don't let algorithms dictate your relationship decisions. The future of love doesn't have to be dystopian. It doesn't have to be everybody alone, swiping through profiles, performing for potential partners, applying tactics and strategies, keeping score, protecting themselves so thoroughly that they never actually connect with anyone. It could be something else. It could be a return to authenticity, to vulnerability, to genuine curiosity about other humans, to building connections based on actual compatibility rather than calculated optimization. But that requires us to actively resist the messages we're being fed, to turn down the noise, to stop consuming so much content about how we're supposed to love, and start actually loving, imperfectly, messily, honestly. It requires us to accept that we'll make mistakes, that we'll hurt people and be hurt, that we'll have our hearts broken and break some hearts too. That this is all part of being human, being alive, being willing to care about someone despite the risks. It requires us to stop viewing relationships as competitions to win or transactions to optimize, and start viewing them as collaborations, as partnerships, as two people trying to build something together that's better than what either could build alone. And it requires us to remember that everyone else is just as confused as we are, that nobody has it all figured out, that the people giving advice online are often struggling just as much in their own relationships, that confidence isn't the same as competence, that certainty isn't the same as wisdom. We're all just doing our best, making it up as we go along, learning from our mistakes, trying to be better than we were yesterday. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's enough. So if you're out there right now, feeling confused about dating, feeling exhausted by modern romance, feeling like genuine connection is impossible, I want you to know something. It's not you. You're not broken. You're not doing it wrong. You're just trying to navigate a landscape that's been deliberately made confusing by people who profit from your uncertainty. The answer isn't to give up. It's not to resign yourself to loneliness or to settle for relationships that don't fulfill you. It's to be more discerning about whose voices you let into your head, to be more protective of your own instincts, to be braver about being yourself even when yourself doesn't match what you think you're supposed to be. The right person for you isn't going to be impressed by your performance. They're going to be drawn to your authenticity, to your quirks and flaws and weird sense of humor and specific interests and all the things that make you specifically you. And you're not going to find them by following a formula. You're going to find them by being open, by being honest, by being willing to be seen, really seen, even though it's terrifying, by showing up as yourself and hoping they show up as themselves too. That's all any of us can do. Show up, be honest, be kind, work as a team, forgive, grow, keep choosing each other, keep trying, keep believing that connection is possible even when everything around us suggests it isn't. Because it is possible. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I know it exists. And I know that despite all the noise, despite all the confusion, despite all the terrible advice and toxic narratives, people are still finding each other, still building beautiful relationships, still proving that love, real love, is stronger than algorithms. We just have to be willing to fight for it, to protect it from the voices that want to commodify it, to keep it private and sacred and real, to remember that the best parts of love aren't shareable, aren't performable, aren't anything you can capture in 15 seconds of video. They're the quiet moments, the inside jokes, the comfortable silences, the small acts of care, the way they remember how you take your coffee, the way they check in when you're having a bad day, the way they're willing to have difficult conversations, the way they keep showing up even when it's hard. That's what matters. That's what lasts. That's what we should be aspiring to. Not perfect, not impressive, not viral worthy. Just real, just honest, just two people doing their best to love each other well. And maybe, in a world of noise and performance and strategy, that's the most radical thing we can do. Just love honestly.